Frank, you were watching last night with the focus group. What did that group think?
They thought that Mike Pence was the clear winner, which was very different than what happened in the first debate. They felt that Pence was calm, cool, and collected. They had an issue with how Kamala Harris communicated. And as I'm listening to them, the tone and demeanor of the discussion last night was exactly what the American people want. They go back and forth, where they talk about where they stand, but there's still some complaints with our undecided voters that they're not specific enough about the future, that Kamala Harris spent too much time prosecuting the Trump administration, and Mike Pence spent too much time defending the Trump administration. They want to know exactly what they're going to do on jobs. They want to know exactly what they're going to do on taxes. And the number one question from them is what's going to happen with the Supreme Court. Will Joe Biden try to pack the Supreme Court? Mike Pence did an outstanding job making that an issue yesterday, and that is resonating in the minds of the American people today.
Frank, that kind of shocks me, the idea that the Supreme Court would resonate more with undecided voters. I mean, it wouldn't surprise me as much if these were hardcore voters who knew that this was going to be the issue that they were going for. But for undecided voters, I would have guessed that the biggest issue would have been the economy.
I agree with you, and I was very surprised. But if you notice what Pence did, they go through the questions, they go through the give and take. And this is the impact of a debate, that it's supposed to change people's minds. It's supposed to change their perspective, their outlook. And you can't give Mike credit for winning the debate. You have to give Kamala responsibility for losing it because of the tone, because of the demeanor. And I don't know if you have a clip of this, but the smirking and the reactions to it. It did not do well for Al Gore back in 2000, and it did not sit well with voters with Senator Harris in this debate.
Yeah, but voters probably looking a little bit more for a return to more presidential behavior, not liking some of those things. But let's show you a clip about what they did say about the economic recovery. When Vice President Pence was asked about that, he used the opportunity to go after the Biden campaign.
More taxes, more regulation, banning fracking, abolishing fossil fuel, crushing American energy, and economic surrender to China is a prescription for economic decline. President Trump and I will keep America growing. The V-shaped recovery that's underway right now will continue with 4 more years of President Donald Trump.
Frank, what did the panel say just about the responses to the economy and what they heard from each candidate?
The issue about the economy is that they don't think that is as good today as it was back in March. They are concerned about the jobs coming back, but they did not hear a plan from either candidate about what they're going to do to bring those jobs back. No details. I'm waiting for the candidates to look people straight in the eye, look the American people straight in the eye, and articulate step 1, step 2, step 3. Now, Mike Pence did a better job this debate than Donald Trump did a week ago in explaining and doing so in a presidential or vice presidential way, the approach that they have taken up to this point. But I want to be clear about this. Voters aren't looking backwards. They're looking ahead. We know what happened over the last 4 years. Now tell me what's going to happen over the next 4 weeks, 4 months, and 4 years.
Hey, Frank, question for you just about how voters think about the truth versus the presentation. I absolutely agree with you. The disposition and demeanor with which Senator Harris carried herself relative to Vice President Pence. Vice President Pence would clearly be the winner. Having said that, listening to the actual answers, listening to the answers of how they're answering questions, or rather in certain cases, not answering questions or answering questions with untruths, the question is, does what's actually coming out of their mouth matter?
Well, it matters, but Andrew, just as you and I can see each other, it's not just hearing what they have to say, it's watching them and how they say it. And if you are dismissive, if you reject, and I know this is a show about money, a show about finance, a show about the economy, but every time I do these focus groups with undecided voters, and they only represent 6% of America, almost everybody's made up their minds by this point, they're looking at the total candidate, not just where they stand on the issues. And they're not reading the Wall Street Journal. They're not reading the Financial Times. They're not reading The Economist. What they are doing is watching to see whether or not they can trust that individual. And Mike Pence did extraordinarily well in that. He never got agitated. He never got flustered. This is a complete difference from the first debate that our focus group thought that Joe Biden won because they thought, frankly, that Donald Trump was not acting presidential and was even abusive to the vice president. It's not just
Frank,
where you stand, it's also who you are.
Shepard Smith here. Thanks for watching CNBC on YouTube.